I want to thank you all for coming. Adult formation team is now starting their listening to the LGBTQ community, and Leslie is our first speaker. So everybody's ready?
Thank you for coming. Thank you for supporting. Let's see, everybody knows who I am. Leslie Davin. I used to serve in the Navy between 1982 and 1988. I was an electronic technician. But to back it up, I started to go to college, and then I ran out of money about junior year. So there I am, I'm 23, working in the factory, ran out of money to go to college. What the heck am I gonna do? Well, I guess God answered me there, because I saw an ad in the paper that said, oh, we'll teach you electronics and technical experience. Naive me, I called the number. It was a Navy recruiter. Thought quick and went, my dad was in the Navy. Most of my uncles, some aunts, a lot of my cousins were in the Army, the Navy, or the Air Force. So there was a tradition in my family to serve. So I'm thinking, okay, we can kill two birds with one stone. I can serve my nation and get something out of it. Problem was, I went down to the recruiter office, and they have you sign these papers. And you have to answer these questions. So I'm going through all the questions, and I get to the one where, are you a lesbian? And I stopped. I'm like, and I'm thinking, oh crap. Well, that kind of nixed that one. The recruiter came to my rescue. He looks at me and goes, oh no, just mark no on that. I'm like, okay. So what ended up being is a lie of omission. So I entered the Navy as a lesbian, not out at that point, which I was before, so I went into the closet to get into the military. There are a lot of people in the closet in the military. A lot. This was during the time in the early 80s where you could get beat up, you could get killed, the least if people knew you were gay. Real common. Frightening times. You had to be careful who you trusted. And in the military, yeah. You trusted other people that you knew were lesbians and gays. And we fondly called ourselves the family, because we were one big family. Some of the ways that people avoided the spotlight was to have a lesbian marry a gay man. That way, oh, they're married. They can't be gay. So there would be a sham wedding, and everything be hunky-dory. Everything's cool, long as you behaved. You couldn't hold hands in public. You had to be careful about writing anything. Everything you did or said while you were in the military was scrutinized, was watched, whether you knew it or not. I went to Orlando for basic training, and yes, in boot camp there were 2 other lesbians in there, but we kept our distance because we were scared to be found out. We wanted to serve and be in the military so much we would risk beatings, abuse. You're going to drop that dish. Okay. I initially came in wanting a way out of just working in the factories, whatever. But it became an honor to serve. And I kept that honor to serve. And I thought, why should me being a lesbian interfere with serving my country? Well, Congress and the higher ups, officers especially, said, oh, you can't trust the, lesbians and gays because they'll give away our secrets. They can't be trusted. They can't keep secrets. Yeah, no. We were the best secret keepers. Matter of fact, a lot of enlisted that were in the Navy that I knew were cryptography techs, radio men. We were all in secret and top secret classified jobs. Yes, we knew how to keep a secret. Very well, thank you. The people that actually did cause the problems were straight white males. Sorry. Notorious for even secrets. Some of the things we had to watch out for was if you went out to the clubs, you had to be aware that there were people that go in the clubs looking for us, see if they could find military. A lot of the clubs, a lot of the bars were aware and looked out for us if they could. We usually went off times, like in the middle of the afternoon. Not many people, just to be out in an environment that was welcoming and friendly. Most of the time we would have parties within our own homes, off base, mind you, always off base. We always had to be careful. We also had to be careful about telling our background, who we're interested in. We can't just say, oh, well, yeah, that woman I really, whoops. You can't say it. Although, come to find out, the biggest supporters, the people you could trust, were your shipmates. The people I worked side by side with, they protected and defended me. Now, mind you, they didn't know, gays prior to me, but they were like, well, you're a shipmate. I'll stand by you because you'll stand by me. And that's very true in the military as it is. Some of the things that happen in the military, notorious one is called a witch hunt. That one happened while I was in electronics school, my second school. I was in class, and all of a sudden the leader of our class was called out, and we thought, well, they finally caught him cheating, which he was, but we're not going to turn him in, but we thought, yeah, they finally caught him. Nope, he came back, looked at me and sat down, and I still remember this. Then a few minutes later, these two MPs were at the class door, asked for me, told me to come with my books and my belongings there and to follow them. They didn't say a word, and they escorted me to the school office, sat me down, told me to sit there and not say a word. I sat there for half an hour with people going by, staring at me, not knowing. At that point, I had no idea what was going on. So yeah, psychologically, they were terrifying me, and they did it on purpose. People have probably seen on TV and whatever, NCIS. Well, the precursor to that was NIS, Naval Intelligence Service. The problem with NIS, it was a civilian service. And their oversight was scanty, if anything. They had a very bad reputation for accusing people, for harassing people, for planting evidence. And they were in charge of these witch hunts. Apparently, little did I know, is they started off at the schools. So they thought, well, hey, here's a big ripe ground. There's gotta be lesbians and gays here. So they were doing a lesbian witch hunt. Well, after half an hour, I was told to follow the MPs and the civilian, and we went to another part of base. I have no idea where, because they did this winding path, and they did it on purpose so I wouldn't know where on base I was going. I got marched in, literally, past some offices with doors open, and I know they're on purpose, and I saw these women at these desks being questioned, interrogated. And I had my own interrogation room. They tried twisting truth, they tried lying, they tried to get me to sign something saying, oh, well, this is just a sign that you're heterosexual. I'm like, no, I declined to sign anything. And I knew I could say that. I knew I could do that. Most of the other women did not know that. And what they would do is they would use those signatures and tell other people, oh, well, she signed it saying she's a lesbian. They would use that against other women, whether they were lesbian or not. It was a very frightening time, because he would go between rapid fire, well, are you heterosexual? Are you homosexual? Are you heterosexual? I mean, just, it was frightening to go through that. And this is a civilian. I can't walk out. I have to stay there through this. Unlike if you go to a police station, you can actually get up and leave, unless you're under arrest. Me? Mm-mm. Military, they have you. You are owned by the military. You do what they say, period. So, over an hour of that chat, we went back to my barracks, back to my room, and they tore apart my room. They looked for anything, any letters, any dress, apparel, anything in writing, any books, any music, anything that would say I was a lesbian, of that persuasion. They tore my room apart, and I had to stand there and watch them while they're saying, we know you are. Now, this is still during the school day, and of course I'm not the only one. There's a large group of women. There's 20, 25 women out of a little over 60 that are on that barracks floor. Now, school is a large school, so there are a couple hundred. So it's military. Word spreads fast. So once everybody had their room torn apart, of course, I wasn't alone in my room. I had a bunkmate. So a bunkmate came back to some of her things torn apart, but I'm not there. We get taken back to the NIS offices. School is let out. People are told to go back to the barracks, back to their room, and stay in their room until further notified, basically until we came back. So my roommate was wondering what the heck was going on. because her things, some of them were destroyed, some of my things were destroyed. She thought maybe I had done it. NIS was waging psychological, emotional, dirty warfare with the lesbians and gays in the military. And it didn't end there. It followed me to my next duty station. Every once in a while, I would have my barracks room inspected. Yep. After that duty station, everything was okay, but yeah. So hiding in plain sight was rather tough. I lasted 6 years of going through that. I also lasted through, I missed the bus from a military outing thing, so I hitched down the highway while I was in uniform. So apparently I looked like a lesbian, and these guys pulled over and tried beating on me, screaming at me that I was a lesbian, just because I was a woman in uniform hitching. Didn't do anything, no one else there. So yeah. So of course I can't report it. What am I going to tell the military? Oh yeah, they think I'm a lesbian, so I get beat up? Yeah, not a good idea. Because then they would go, well, why would they think that? And it would start all over again. I wasn't out per se. You know, I was just a normal person, whatever, prior to the military. But the military made me keep secrets. I became very closeted. Granted, a lot of my shipmates had my back, whatever, but all it takes is one person that I ticked off, one person that hears the wrong thing, and there goes my career. So after 6 years, my tour ended, and I left because I couldn't live like that anymore. And it took me years to be able to hold someone's hand down the street without fear. But I'm still proud that I served. I'm proud that I served my country. I really am. And thanks, Sandy. I'm just not proud of how I was treated. I saw amazing people, amazing things done, and I saw some brutal things done, all in the name of laws. So that's a taste of what it was like for me in the 80s in the military as a lesbian. I usually don't say, you know, hi, I'm Leslie, I'm a lesbian. I'm just me. And I've come back to that realization. But it took a long time for me to say that word. Long time. Because it was used as an ugly label, a dangerous label. So, questions? Comments?
Do you feel more comfortable now
Immensely.
with the way society in general is?
Yes. Society, yes. The military still has its, you may think it's improved. No, there's a lot of underground crap that still goes on in the military. Yeah, they can be open-ish, but just don't talk about it. You know, basically, it's still a, you know, don't ask, don't tell, in a way. It still is. You know, you can't talk about, oh, hey, you know, I met this woman, and oh, yeah, no, not a good idea. You won't get promoted. You won't get leave for this. No, there's ways around. Yeah. May not be your fellow soldiers, fellow seamen, but yeah, the higher ups, yeah, you still don't talk about it. You don't want them to know about it. So yeah. But in general, society has changed tremendously. I mean, tremendously. I don't have to fear about getting beat up walking down the road. I don't have to keep my eye on the door, thinking somebody's going to come in with a baseball bat. It was real common during the 70s and 80s for a lot of the bars and nightclubs to pay off the police so raids wouldn't happen and people wouldn't get beat up, although sometimes it did still happen. Yes, ma'am.
Can you repeat the questions, Leslie?
Certainly.
Were any of the higher-ups gays or lesbians?
Not to my definite knowledge. She asked if any of the higher-ups were gays or lesbians. If they were, I think they had a much harder row of it. Because they're supposed to enforce this wonderful little rule of, we can't trust them. I held one of the highest top security clearances. I worked with cryptography equipment that, but yeah, they thought, oh no, they can't do that. You'll give away the secrets. But the higher, there are one or two I kind of wondered about, but yeah, I wouldn't give that knowing look like, no, you didn't. As enlisted, we always assumed that any officer, male or female, was probably straight, and don't ever let them know, because they will turn you in.
Were there any that were supportive of the officers?
None.
None?
None.
What was the question?
If there was any support from officers, none. None.
Leslie, were you there when they had the don't ask, don't tell policy? Or was that after you retired?
I was prior to the don't ask, don't tell. I was in the you tell us, we'll beat you and send you out.
Did that policy make it nicer for people?
No. The policy of don't ask, don't tell gave a false sense of security. It basically said, well, we suspect you of being a lesbian or gay or bisexual or queer or trans. So if you tell us about it, then yeah, you're going over bounds. You're just an inconvenience. They found different ways of, of harassment, of drumming out. And another note is during the 80s, I wasn't one of the first groups of women to go in that wasn't a nurse or a test pilot, whatever, but I was right on the heels of the first group. And there were two easy ways for women to get out of, especially the Navy, within the first year. Get pregnant or have a psychological issue. And a psychological issue was being lesbian. Some people use that, and normally it was a straight woman. She found out that wasn't a wise thing to do. Not at all. Not a wise thing to do.
Could you say more about that? It wasn't wise.
It wasn't wise for a straight woman to do that. She would get isolated. She would be put in and this happened while I was in one of my schools. There was one woman, and she was straight. She was definitely straight. No clue. No clue that I was a lesbian. No clue that there's other people there that were lesbians. And she had to stay in that barracks room. She could not even go out to eat. They brought her food, left it at the door, told her to get it, closed the door and locked her in. That was it.
For how long?
That lasted for about a month and a half. So, pardon me? She eventually was drummed out, but they could have done it in a more timely fashion, but no. She was used as an example of what will happen to lesbians. Well, gays, too. But gays, the men would usually get a beat down. That was very, very common for the guys to get beaten. And they said it was always, you know, the guys in their unit. No. It usually was somebody outside the unit because we stood up for our own. Yes, ma'am.
Had you intended to make a career of the Navy, or why did you stay so long?
Carol asked if I intended to make a career of the Navy. At one point, yes. Early on, I did want to make a career of it, and I thought, I can deal with this. I can, you know, hold this in. I'm 20s. You know, I think I can do anything. I could lift a house in the morning and, you know, build another one in the afternoon. You're invincible in your 20s. My regular enlistment was 6 years because I had a specialized school, electronics and cryptography. Your normal tour of enlistment can either be 2 or 4 years. So signed up for a 4-year enlistment, and I signed up for 2 additional years to be able to go to those specialized schools. It was a basic, you know, we'll give you this if you give us that. Yeah, I was thinking of becoming a Mustang, which is an enlisted person that goes to officer candidate school and becomes an officer. I was ready to go there. What changed was psychologically I was getting burnt out. Just day in, day out, 24 hours a day, it's on your mind. You've got to be careful what you say, you've got to be careful what you do. That, and I think God kind of helped me in a way too, because after 5 years, the Navy found that I had a heart murmur. I didn't know I had. And so I was told you can get out now or at the end of your enlistment since it's coming up. So I went with I'll leave at the end of my enlistment. So it was fortuitous in that way.
So how would you compare civilians in the early 80s, civilian life in the early 80s to military? I mean, obviously the military has more control over you, but were each of them equally discriminatory?
The discrimination comparatively between civilian life and military life, military can do a whole lot more to you. There's also a little thing that, say you did something to a civilian, well, you get punished in the civilian society, but then the military would also get you. It's double indemnity, but yeah, they would have their turn. It was marginally easier civilian life because they're not as much in your life. The military, yeah, they own you, literally. You're told from day one, you are property of the United States government. They own you. It's a hard pill to swallow on the first day, but you kind of get used to it. There's benefits, rewards, and blah, blah, blah. But, yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit about faith and how faith and your thoughts about God or not, played into all of that?
Faith in God and being a lesbian in the military. During that time, there was very little. Because you had enough people coming around saying, oh, you're a lesbian, God hates you. So there's no comfort there. It kind of feels like you're hiding from God too. You know? You're hiding from yourself, you're hiding from everybody, including God. You can't get any succor from God protecting you, because everybody around you, most of the religions are like, you're a sinner. What you're doing is sodomy. It still happens.
So what shifted for you?
For faith, for what shifted for me.
You got out, that was one shift, but where did faith come along?
Faith came along when I met my partner, Kathy Milner, 26 years. That's where my faith came back. I kind of bounced around different faiths looking for something that would accept me. Well, Kathy accepted me. She went to Rosary. She was planning on getting into the ministry, and she kind of got into the ministry a little early and was told, yeah, no, we don't have women as priests. She was just a little on the early side of that. You know, you can be a deacon. She wanted to be more than a deacon. So we're both very spiritual. Very, very, in at least once, twice a week, we would have spiritual talks that would last for hours at that dining room table. And that's why I came back to God. You know, I thought God had abandoned me, and I had abandoned God. I had walked away. I wondered, why did he abandon me to the evils of my mom, to the evils of the military? I was blaming God. And just finally a realization that, no, he was there. Just belief. There's love. All this gibberish that people are saying is from people. It's humans saying sinner and this is wrong. God's not saying that. You know, God's about love. Finally hearing that. Understanding and believing it. Actually believing it. So, getting teary-eyed thinking of that. Getting teary-eyed thinking of that. That God was just waiting for me to come back. He'd be there.
I want to say thank you for your strength and courage.
Thanks. It was hard. Past few days, these memories are hot button topics for me. It's hard. It's not sitting in front of you and talking. I can do that. It's talking about these things. They hurt. They're deep. You know, I don't mind sharing them, but it's keeping myself together to be able to share that with you. That's what was hard for me. So I'll probably sleep pretty good tonight. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
What strikes me is that you came back to the divine through a human person.
Yes.
Through love.
Yes, I came back to God through love. Yeah. God finds a way. God finds a way. He found a church for me, too.
We're happy to be back.
Thank you.
Had you been going to church before?
I had tried different churches. I had gone to people's weddings. I had been spoken to, lectured, and sermoned, and yeah, what fun that was. Yeah. And this church was the only welcoming church I had ever been to. So here I am.
You are loved.
Thank you.
So my question is, so you say when you were lectured, I want to know what the logic was, what were they expect you to just like change your mind? Did they expect you to like what were you supposed to do in response to the lecture for you to be right?
I think the lecture was just them conversing, and this is what they thought, and I should be like this. It wasn't any intent on what do I need, what do I feel, what do I think, but here's where they stand. Like, you go, okay, not me. Yeah. People tell me, oh, you're bad, that's sinful. Okay. What's better?
And what made you feel welcome? Sorry.
What made me feel welcome?
Yes.
This is God's table. Everybody is welcome. Those words, I'm going to cry. Those words alone. Those words alone. And all your smiling faces right here.
Did you find it, being in the 80s, that it was difficult enough for women to be in the military?
Yes.
Were there any straight women that, you know, were comrades and would help? Or
You were asking if there were straight women that were comrades that would help. Yeah, straight men, straight women, my immediate shipmates, the people I work with, yeah. It didn't matter, male, female. Oh yeah. If anything, I got more camaraderie from straight women, which kind of surprised me in some ways. In some way, because I wasn't after their husband, I wasn't after their boyfriend, I was safe. The guys just couldn't figure out, they thought, some of them thought, hey, I'll be the one. Yeah, no, you're not. Sorry, bud. No, you're not. There are a few that way, just, yeah, no. Lost cause. Tis it. Tis the end.
Did you travel much, or were you pretty much based in the U.S.?
Yeah, I went around the world several times. Women in the 80s could not serve on combat ships. There's a way around that. It's called temporary duty, TADs. I had a high security clearance on pieces of equipment that, well, the guy would, usually a guy, because it's a combat ship, he's scheduled to leave to go to his next duty station. Well, a lot of times there's no overlap for the person that's going to replace them, and a lot of times the person that's going to replace them is straight out of school. So I would do a couple days to 2-week tour of duties on combat ships, training the newbies from school. This is the real world. This is what you need to do with this piece of equipment. It's 99% mechanical problem. It's not going to be electronic. It's going to be mechanical. Yeah. So
So if you weren't doing that,
Mhm.
you would be on a ship, what were you, or was that just your job to?
that was one of my jobs, was to fill in. Other jobs was taking care of cryptography radio equipment, different station. Dia Garcia, which is in the middle of the Indian Ocean, was one of my long duty stations. Then I did a lot of spot ones. I've been to Australia, to Perth, out in the middle of nowhere, Perth, South Korea. Where else have I been? Rhoda, Spain, and then San Diego, Point Loma, California. Yeah, So
What did you do when you left the military, and how did you deal with all of the issues that you faced while you were there?
I initially was going to go from my military job to a civilian job doing almost the same exact thing. I left as an E6, which is pretty high up there. It's like a staff sergeant level. In 6 years, that's fast. I'm good at my job. But it's also lower middle management. Yeah, I was ready to have a job that started at $44,000, but then I met someone, not Kathy, this is before Kathy, and kind of followed her back to Indiana. That should have told me right there, no, not a good idea, not a good idea. And yeah, I found out that was definitely not a good idea. Ended up being a night auditor, doing maid service, tried doing electronics, and found out that civilian women don't like to see other women do men's jobs. They didn't like it. I've got scars from it. Them turning on equipment when it was supposed to be off. Dangerous. But eventually went back to school and got an electronic engineering degree, went to work for Motorola. And come to find out, this newly minted MBA basically told me that if I worked hard for a couple more years, that I could probably have a job as an electronics tech in Motorola. So I looked at her, told her to pound sand, and went looking for other jobs, and I've done a variety of different jobs. I've delivered all sorts of delivery type jobs, made. Pride will not get in my way of work. It will not.
How did you deal with the psychological stress post-military?
I buried it. I buried it until about 10 years ago, when it blew up like a volcano in my face. And I went and saw VA hospital. And I walked in and said, I need help. I need help. Not suicidal, but I need help. So, yes, I'm heavily medicated. Drugs are good. Meditation, God, yeah. And talking, not keeping it in. Sharing, not being afraid of what people think. Although I know you guys are supporters, so that wasn't the problem.
So Leslie, are you saying that after the military you were not able to find a job where you were able to use your education and your skills?
Correct. I did not find a job directly because civilian life doesn't catch up to military very quickly. You get paid the same as a guy doing the same job in the military. Not so much civilian life. A woman doing electrical engineering, yeah. Military, yes. Civilian, yeah. Guy does it better. So yeah, I came out in 1988, and that was still the thinking then. Yeah, I mean, I had a female MBA telling me that in the early 90s that, yeah, if I worked hard enough, I could be an electronic technician. Like, I have a degree. Yeah, no. Yeah. So yeah, that was one good thing in the military. They do support education. Their military is huge on education. That's a founding block for them getting people in, is education. It's good. To me, I think it's a fair-ish trade. You know, service in for the education that you get. And you do learn confidence, one form or another. The other thing about the military, they still take criminals. Judges will offer, well, you can go to jail or you can go in the military.
What kind of criminals?
Thieves, rapists, oh yeah, the petty criminals. Oh yeah, a lot of rapists in the Navy. Lot.
That's not petty.
Lot in the Army too. There's a lot. Yeah, it's a breeding ground now. Yep, a lot of thieves, lots of thieves. They avoid jail. Serve a couple years, maybe 4, depending upon what's offered, and yeah. Yep. You got an easier system to work with.
Since Roman times,
Nope. Nope, basically same.
Same, but
Yeah, different time, different place, same thing.
What'd you say?
hasn't changed much since Roman times.
Yeah. Yeah, the Greeks and Romans still had the same problem. They would get, you know, the dregs of society. Does that make me the dregs? Yeah, no. But no, I was looking for opportunity, a way out, and I did. I got there. Paid a price a little bit, but yep. Oh, and I was there when AIDS came out too. What a joy that was. Yeah. Yep. Very impressed with my fellow comrades, straight men and women. Did not put down the gays. Did not put down the Haitians at the time. They were mad at a lot of the people that were saying, oh, we should ship them out and they should die, whatever. I was proud of them. Like, good for you. Very proud of them. So, I think you're a listed person for being a human being. Truly are. I think that concludes for tonight, unless somebody else has.
Thank you, Leslie.
Welcome. Thank you.